Greetings and good evening, traders. Zach here with the Trading Network. Hope you guys are doing well and that your week is off to a good start so far. It is Tuesday, April 13th, and I've got another daily market profile recap for you for both the ES and NQ futures markets. So starting off, moving into the profile as usual here, we are going to go over the key levels from ES. So starting with the first level, I was looking at the overnight high at 41.27 there. Second key level I was interested in was the prior value area high at 41.18. Third level was yesterday's POC, this 41.13 level, and you can see how tight of a range we had. You can see the labels down here. We had an 18.5 point range. So with a tight range, that means a tight value area. So that's why I only had one of the value area levels marked, which was the value area high here. So after that POC from yesterday, the 41.13 level, I was most interested in that 41.06 level, which was yesterday's regular trading hours low. And last but not least, my final level that I was interested in was 41.0125, which was the overnight low from that most recent Globex session. You can see that we had another naked POC at 40.9825, lurking right below that as well. So moving over to NQ now, we will get into the key levels for the NASDAQ. So starting with the overnight high, you can see that the overnight high was at 13,896. And just as a side note, you guys can see that a lot of times when we have similar profile structure on ES and NQ, the key levels are going to be the same in regards to, I'm looking at the overnight highs, prior range highs, overnight POCs, prior POCs, things like that. So just to reiterate, first key level was 13,896, the overnight high. Second level was the prior range high at 13,828. That was, again, the range high from the April 12th session. The third level I was interested in was the overnight point of control right below that at 13,813. You can see on the trade plan here, I had it at 13,815, just a couple points away from that. If you guys notice a little bit of discrepancy between what's on the charts and in my trade plan, that's likely because I will, from time to time, change my ticks per level setting on the market profile, which helps me adjust how stretched out or how condensed the profile is. Depending on how wide or tight the range is, you typically want to adjust the ticks per level so you can see more granular information there. So with that said, the fourth level I was looking at was the prior point of control. You can see that 780 level right here. And last but not least, I was looking at the prior range low below that at 13,732. So with those key levels out of the way, we will work into the analysis here that I was looking at pre-market, and we will see what happened. So my thought was pre-market is overnight inventory was relatively balanced on ES and on NQ. Now, what that means for you guys who are not familiar, for those of you who are just learning the market profile, having an overnight inventory that is balanced means that the settlement price from the previous session is in between the overnight profile. It's in the middle of the profile. That means that there has not been a substantial amount of business or trading activity done on either side of the profile. There has been a relatively even amount of business done on either side of settlement price. So if I just remove these levels real quick, you can see I have settlement labeled right here, 41.20. So I will hide this real quick. You can see if I put this right here, you can see it's fairly even, right? And that's why I said relatively balanced. So if we go over to NQ, I'll flip on my settlement level. You can see settlement was right here, pretty much right in the middle of the overnight profile. So keep that in mind. We can use how settlement is positioned or how the overnight is positioned in relation to settlement price to give us strategies right off the open. Keep that in mind. That's why market profile is so powerful for those of you guys who are new to the channel and new to the profile in general. So ES was looking to open within range and value. NQ, however, was entirely above Monday's range. So you can see this was Monday's range right here, and NQ was opening entirely above the range from the previous regular trading hour session. Now, when this happens, a strategy called a gap and go is in play. This means if we open with a gap, you can see here that we've got a gap between the low or where we opened and the high of yesterday. So when we open with a gap, the strategy works like this. If we do not quickly get selling pressure to move lower and close this gap, tap this 13,828 level, then the probability shifts of a continuation of the overnight trend. right? So that means if we open up and we don't quickly move down, tap 13,828 and fill the gap, then we're likely to pick up where the overnight inventory left off and continue that trend to the upside. So just to show you guys here, I'm going to pull up my NQ chart, my regular NQ chart, and I'll show you guys what it looked like off the open. So you can see that we basically got an open drive profile structure. What an open drive profile structure means is we open up and we drive in one direction immediately. So if I zoom in here, you could consider this an open test drive as well, because we did open up, come back down a little bit, and then drive. So you can see here, O period, right there, that is where we opened. We opened up, we came down, we tested the opening range low, we created the opening range low, if you will, and then we drove up. And we never revisited this level for the rest of the day. That is strong directional conviction off the open. That is, by definition, a gap. We open with a gap and go. We just move to the upside, we drove to the upside, and we held. So that is a very high probability play that when using market profile, you can instantly look and say, do we have a gap? Yes. Okay. Gap and go is in play. Let me see if we can close the gap quickly. And if not, I'm looking to continue that overnight trend, whether it's overnight uptrend or an overnight downtrend. So just to read you guys exactly what I wrote here. I said ES is looking to open within range and value, and NQ is currently entirely above Monday's range, as we just discussed. This means we may open with a gap to the upside. When the overnight inventory is balanced, this actually means that there hasn't been much of a change in directional conviction since the last session. So the overnight inventory was balanced on ES and NQ. However, because we opened with a gap on NQ, there is slightly more directional conviction on NQ than ES. So just to show you guys, you can see that we opened up, here's O period, we opened up within yesterday's range on ES, but on NQ, we were way above it. Yesterday's range, way above it, okay? So we also have a gap and go scenario on NQ, as we discussed. So again, if we open above 13,828, we have a gap. So we did indeed open above 13,828, and that gap and go was in play. We did not have, once again, a gap on ES because we opened inside of yesterday's range. So just to make this abundantly clear, yesterday's range, here's where we opened up. So we opened within yesterday's range. That means there's no gap and go on ES, but there was indeed a gap and go on NQ. Alrighty, so today I was looking at the overnight point of control on ES at 4120. So you can see this level right here, 4120. I will draw a box around the line in the sand for ES, and the overnight high on NQ at 13,896. Okay, so this was my line in the sand on NQ. My thought was, if we can move and hold above those levels, we were going to see a push to the upside and directional conviction develop. You can see that I say here, if we can move and hold above these levels, I will look for a gap and go on NQ and directional conviction to develop on ES. I will be cautiously taking longs and periodically taking profit, as we are now at all-time highs on both ES and NQ. If we do not move and hold above those levels, I will look for a gap close on NQ, which we did not get, and a rotation on ES between the prior high and prior low, which again, we did not get. So you can see we opened up, we came down, we tested, we couldn't even get to yesterday's POC to close it. Single print buying tail, which means that higher time frame players, other time frame players, the strong players that have the power to move the market, those players, had the directional conviction to the upside, and that is what this single print buying tail represents. And you can see that that single print buying tail exists on both ES and NQ. So I just noticed that some of this was cut off here, so just so you guys can read this. Today I will be looking at the overnight POC on ES, 4120, and the overnight high on NQ at 13,896. If we can move and hold above those levels on open, I will look for a gap and go on NQ and upside directional conviction to develop on ES. I will be cautiously taking longs and periodically taking profit, as we are now at all-time highs on both ES and NQ. And on the flip side, if we did not move and hold above those levels, I was going to be looking for that gap close on NQ and a rotation between yesterday's prior high and low on ES. All right, so moving on to the scenarios, just to reiterate here, upon open, I was looking to see if we were going to get acceptance above those line in the sand levels. Line in the sand on ES was at 4120.75, and line in the sand on NQ was the overnight high right here at 13,896. If we could hold above those levels, I was looking for that gap and go to play out. And if we could not, I was looking for that rotation back into yesterday's range on NQ and back into yesterday's value, and likely a rotation of the range as well on ES, which we did not get. We got upside directional conviction right off the open, and buyers were in control essentially all day. So moving into the summary here with the targets, you can see once again, line in the sands are in place. And the first upside target I was looking at on ES was the 41.24 level. 41.24 was the prior range high right here. You can see that level was hit very quickly off the open. So again, we opened up, moved down, tested and created this range low, and we moved into yesterday's high swiftly off the open. And that was indeed in the initial balance, which for those of you not familiar, the initial balance is the opening 1 hour range. Second upside target that was hit was 41.27, which was right above that. That was the overnight high. So you guys can see it's pretty simple. I use the profile levels as targets. Profile levels will often be very important levels of liquidity that essentially act as magnets for price. If price moves and works above the overnight point of control, then it's likely to move up into the next higher profile level, which is of course this, and then this, and this, okay? So the third upside target was Fibonacci pivot R2. Again, we were at all-time highs, and when we are in blue sky breakout territory, we don't really have a ton of levels to go off of other than things like measured moves and projected levels with things like VWAP deviations, which is a part of the Trading Network proprietary indicator package, and Fibonacci pivots, which are actually built into NinjaTrader. So with that said, the third upside target was not hit in the initial balance, but it was indeed hit shortly after we moved upwards and broke that initial balance high at 41.25. So you can see that that third upside target was right below, or ended up being right below, today's value area high at 41.30, and the target was right down here at 41.29. So a lot of times my targets will be a little bit more spread out, but as I said in my trade plan today, I was being very cautious because we're at all-time highs. I want to take my profit quickly. I want to secure the equity, as we say, and I want to look for the next setup. Time in the market is risk. So my philosophy, I guess you could say, is when I scalp, I want to make sure that I'm in good trades, I am precise with my entries, and then I get out and look for the next setup, and essentially just wait until I see another high probability setup present itself. So the final upside target I had was 41.37. That was Fibonacci pivot R3. And you can see that that as well was right below our high of the day. So our high of the day was 41.39, and my final upside target was 41.37. Now just flip over here real quick again so you guys can see this regular chart here. This is Fibonacci pivot R3, this red line. You can see that it moves with price. So when we opened up, the third deviation was right up here, right around R3, 41.37. So that was why that was my final target. So moving on to the downside targets, you can see that we got the first one hit basically right at the open. But other than that, no downside targets hit. Second one was 41.13. We did not even get down to this POC, so it was not applicable. And we did not end up hitting any downside targets other than this first one right here at 41.18, which was yesterday's value area high. So short and sweet on the downside. Again, bulls were in control. That single print buying tail on both profiles really tells the story. So moving over to NQ, we will look at the line in the sand once more. I will make this a little bit more clear. I'll draw a region here. It was really this level, but this is an important area to look at. So my thought was if we held this level, we were going to move into new highs and continue the overnight trend, which we did indeed. So first upside target, just like on ES, was third upper deviation of VWAP. So we were above R3, we were above all the fib pivots, so I didn't really have a lot to go on. So I was using the third upper deviation, and you can see that I only had one upside target here, right? So it was essentially just a gap and go, follow the trend, let the trend be your friend, like I say here, all-time highs. If price continues to trend, follow the trend. It's not difficult, right? It is difficult sometimes to tell the difference between the market conditions, but that's why we have tools like the opportunity zone, right? So here is a very good example. Price continued to trend, right? We moved up on the open. Price moved down, retested the overnight high, retested the opening 1 minute range and VWAP. You can see beautiful test to the tick here, and then proceeded to make higher highs, higher lows, and trend. So once you see price do this and shift behavior, come down, test liquidity, pick up this liquidity off of the top of opening range high and shoot up, that says, hey, we are continuing the overnight trend. The gap was not closed. The bulls are too strong. The bears cannot push price down to close the gap. So the longer price stays above that gap, the higher the probability is for us to gap and go. And it took a little bit. You know, this was a couple hours off the open, to be fair, and this was not an easy area to trade. But if you could be patient, wait for setups like this. So check this out. This is a setup that I took. Bullish divergence right at the overnight high. Boom, beautiful setup. Another one. I believe this is bull div as well. Yep, right at the overnight high. Another good setup. Beautiful oscillator structure of VWAP. Higher low right there. Good oscillator structure. Continuing the trend. Look at the test of the opportunity zone, right? So that's why I only had one upside target. It's because we were at all-time highs. We were in blue sky breakout territory, and it was just a matter of following the trend. It doesn't matter what the targets were on a day like today. You know, it was just follow the momentum. Allow price to do its job, and really we just need to do our job of knowing and telling ourselves that price was indeed in a trend. So just like ES, we did not have downside targets hit. We actually didn't even have the first downside target hit on NQ. So flipping back over to the profile here, you can see line in the sand was here. First downside target was 828, which was this level right here. Could have done one of these, this area right here. I mean, pretty important, if you will. Could do like two little zones, maybe one right there and maybe one right there, depending on how you were feeling. But we didn't even reach my first target of 13,828. Again, single print buying tail. We got the open, we got the test, and we got the drive. And we stayed up there all day. So it was really a fun session to trade if you were able to be patient. I really was proud of a lot of my entries today. Let's see if I can pull some of these up. Actually, let's go over here. So this was definitely one of my better trades right here. I posted some of these in our private Discord, and I streamed all of these trades live in our private Discord as well. And we were able to talk about these setups in real time. So you can see, you know, I took some hits. Here's a stop out right here, but I waited for my setup to form. I waited for the divergence to confirm. I waited for my candlestick structure. I entered, and this was, I believe, like a $2,500 trade. I was actually down after I got stopped out of this, maybe like $500-600. Took this trade, held it up to the first upper deviation of VWAP, and made that drawdown back and then some. So just wanted to show you guys that, and just really how you can use these profile levels in combination with these tools and have exceptionally high probability setups. So without getting into too much of a tangent here, I want to thank you guys very much for taking the time to watch these videos. Again, much love to all of my new followers from the Crown interview. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch these videos, to like and subscribe. It really does make a difference. If you guys do enjoy the content, please make sure that you do like and subscribe, and let me know what else you'd like to see content-wise. If you guys want to learn more about what we do here at the Trading Network, definitely check out those links in the description below, where you can first and foremost find a link to our free Facebook group where I release these trade plans on a daily basis for ES and NQ every day, Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. You can also find a link to our website, thetradingnetwork.io, where you can learn more about one-on-one mentorship with me. I offer 4-week programs, 10-week programs, and a few other varying lengths. You can also purchase access to the Trading Network Proprietary Indicator Package for NinjaTrader 8, which you have seen a little bit of in this video. In addition to that, you can learn more about joining our private Discord, and you can learn more about joining the Fundamentals of Futures Trading course, which includes lifetime access to our private Discord. We also offer Fft Course Bundles, where you can get the Trading Network Proprietary Indicator Package, lifetime Discord access, and the Fundamentals of Futures Trading course, which is indeed a comprehensive course where we discuss varying strategies for multiple market conditions for the ES and NQ futures markets. These strategies do work on all markets, futures, crypto, equities, and even Forex, but in the course, we do indeed focus on trading futures. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out anytime. Leave a comment down below. Hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, find me on Discord. I am happy to help any way I can. Look forward to talking to you guys soon, and I will see you in the next video.